Starting with Tier 1, we're talking about wizards that just didn't show potential or tap into that clutch gene. Wizards that could be so deadly, but we just didn't get to see it. Ron Weasley and Neville Longbottom share something critical with the other wizards in this tier. Their magic works best when emotional stakes override technical precision. Ron produces a corporeal Patronus and opens the Chamber of Secrets through sheer nerve, while Neville's defining moment involves a sword, not a spell. Neville throughout the series just couldn't get shit right, and Ron, I feel, never took on that role that everyone wanted to see him hit as Harry's right-hand man. Sure, they showed up at the Battle of Hogwarts and held their own, but they're backup dancers, not main event fighters. Hagrid honestly doesn't have a mean bone in his body unless you hurt one of his creatures. His giant blood means spells just bounce off him like nothing, but his wand's literally broken and hidden in an umbrella, and when it comes to actual spellcasting, he's got nothing. Dave Stutler from the Sorcerer's Apprentice carries prophesied potential as a prime Merlinian, yet his early performances depend entirely on a focus ring and luck with random plasma. He gets better once his physics brain kicks in, but early on, total mess. Schmendrick's the same deal. His spells blow up in his face until he finally has that one moment where he transforms the unicorn. Most of the time though, he's just messing things up. Presto's magic hat is basically a lottery ticket, occasionally delivering exactly what the group needs through chaotic luck rather than skill. Sometimes it works, sometimes you get something completely random. The Wizard Shazam rounds out this tier as someone who once wielded divine power but arrives on screen depleted and dying. Dude used to be powerful, but by the time we see him, he's running on empty. He's got enough juice left to pass his powers to Billy, but that's about it. These wizards all have the same problem. Their magic needs the perfect conditions to work. Without the right emotions, the right tools, or just dumb luck, they can't pull off anything reliable. Tier 1 represents magical potential held back by broken wands, confidence issues, depleted reserves, or simple inexperience. Tier 2 is where things get interesting because now we're dealing with wizards who actually get active. They've trained, they've studied, they can throw down in a fight. But I think the main difference here is that they're not changing the world. Draco Malfoy's a perfect example. The guy's casting nonverbal spells, while most adult wizards can't even pull that off. He fixed the Vanishing Cabinet with zero help, and he was performing the Imperious Curse and attempted to use the Cruciatus Curse. But when it counts, he ain't got it in him. He's got the skill, but not the killer instinct, which keeps him from ever becoming truly dangerous. I blame his dad. Fred and George are on the opposite end. These two are magical geniuses who invented products that stumped Hogwarts teachers. Remember that swamp they conjured that nobody could get rid of? That's serious magic, but their spells are designed for chaos and distraction, not for taking someone down in a real duel. Then you've got wizards like Mickey Mouse in Fantasia, who pulls off this insane feat of animating an army of brooms and controlling massive amounts of water. The scale is huge, but he loses control instantly and nearly drowns in his own spell. But once he gets that sorcerer's hat, that's where we see some impressive magic, but again, no harmful intent. Young Ged from Earthsea does something similar when he saves his village with that fog illusion, but his pride gets him in trouble when he summons a shadow creature he can't handle. Both of them show you can have serious magical firepower and still be your own worst enemy. Newt Scamander's built completely different. He's moving like an animal rights activist of the magical world. He's using his suitcase as a portable zoo with crazy advanced extension charms. He's blocking Grindelwald's attacks, but he's not trying to blast anyone into next week. His whole style is about support and creativity, not raw destruction. What separates Tier 2 from Tier 1 is simple. These wizards have actual training and can execute complex magic on purpose. Wizards like Orko have teleportation and dimensional travel when his magic works right. Yen Sid can reverse Mickey's chaos with a wave of his hand. They're not fumbling around hoping something sticks, but they're also not reshaping reality or leveling cities. They can win fights, solve problems, and create incredible magical effects, but they're not the ones deciding the fate of nations. Now we start talking about some real magic. In Tier 3, these aren't just students or clever inventors anymore. These are battle-hardened spellcasters who've been forged by violence, pressure, and life or death stakes. What brings together every wizard in this tier is their ability to weaponize magic instinctively, to react under fire, and to turn a duel into a battlefield. Harry Potter by Deathly Hallows, he isn't just protected by plot armor and isn't just the chosen one. He invites the static and volunteers to be on the front line. A combat wizard trading spells with Death Eaters in hallways, forests, and castles. He survives killing curses, floods the sky with a Patronus strong enough to push back hundreds of Dementors, and fires off rapid cast counterspells like second nature. Sirius Black and Severus Snape embody the same lethality but with surgical precision. He invented the damned Sectum Sempra as a teenager, manipulates curses mid-flight, and shields his mind from Voldemort for years without slipping. A character torn between the good and the bad, Barty Crouch Jr. represents what happens when a wizard embraces violence completely. He fires unforgivable curses in a classroom like they're warm-ups, traps an entire school in illusions, and dismantles the Tri-Wizard tournament from within without anyone catching on. Across other worlds, you see the same themes play out. The Darkling, or Alexander Morozova, from Shadow and Bone, cuts through soldiers with shadow blades and commands living darkness like a general who knows he can win any fight. One of the cockiest wizards in this tier list overall. He doesn't just cast spells, he controls terrain, armies, and momentum. Howl, on the other hand, fights like a one-man air force. In Howl's moving castle, he's ripping through airships, shape-shifting mid-flight, and warping architecture with barely a gesture, all while struggling to hold on to his humanity. Harry Dresden brings a gritty, street-level brutality to the same idea, turning alleyways into war zones with fire blasts, barrier magic, and improvised runes. Even Kingo the Magician from Marvel adaptations of the Eternals fits the same combat-first mentality, using illusions, teleportation tricks, and projectile sorcery to dismantle enemies with dramatic flair. And Cedric Diggory, though never given the battlefield experience of the others, showed exactly why he belongs here during the Tri-Wizard tournament, navigating lethal enchanted environments and matching Harry step for step for the cup. He would have definitely been up there with Harry ability-wise if he was given the time to cook. The reason these wizards sit firmly in tier 3 is simple. They're killers, fighters, and frontline sorcerers. They win duels, they turn conflicts, they can clear rooms, take down elite opponents, and survive situations that would crush tier 2 casters. But what keeps them from tier 4 is equally important. They don't shape nations or rewrite destiny. They're devastating on the battlefield, but they don't shift the balance of power across entire kingdoms. They're the line between dangerous magician and world-altering sorcerer, and crossing that line requires more than lethal skill. It requires power and influence that can move civilizations. Tier 4 is a unique tier where wizards aren't just apocalyptic forces of nature, but also ones focused on death and causing pain and destruction. These aren't duelists or battlefield tacticians. These are beings whose very existence reshapes eras. Sauron operates on that same tier, but from an even grander mythological angle. As a Maya, given physical form, he's half divine, half warlord, forging the One Ring to hijack the magical and political infrastructure of Middle-earth in one move. Even without a body, his will alone corrupts kings, nations, and entire races. The second and third ages aren't just shaped by Sauron. They exist as a direct response to him. Everything in Middle-earth's history becomes either the echo of his rise or preparation for his return. The underlying tone behind the Lord of the Rings franchise. That type of influence is far beyond anything tier 3 or below sorcerers can reach. Palpatine takes the same idea and stretches it across a galaxy. Although there aren't technically wizards in the Star Wars verse, Sith Lords, and Palpatine from a concept of what wizarding can be, he fits the mold and is the right amount of evil for me to throw him into this tier. In The Rise of Skywalker, he unleashes Force lightning so powerful it disables an entire fleet, hundreds of Star Destroyers in orbit, in one blast. But the real reason he belongs here is his essence transfer sorcery and cloning rituals. Death doesn't stop him, it just forces him to switch bodies. Meanwhile, he orchestrates the fall of the Republic, the rise of the Empire, the Clone Wars, and later, the Sith Eternal. You don't stop Palpatine, you survive the waves of history he creates. David Lopan, from one of my favorite movies, Big Trouble in Little China, is the smallest scale member of Tier 4, but what he lacks in range, he makes up for in immortality and mythic potency. As a cursed spirit, he survives centuries within multiple bodies, manipulating prophecy, and commands supernatural warriors, 3 of the dopest fighters that even inspired characters in Mortal Kombat. His magic includes telekinesis, illusions, energy attacks, spirit projection, and multi-layered fate-binding rituals. If he ever regained his full physical form and divine blessing, he'd become a modern world magical overlord. Ainz Ooal Gown, on the other hand, is world-breaking by design. As an undead overlord with a spell list that includes instant death, battlefield erasure, meteor summons, time stop variants, and reality manipulation, he's one of the clearest Tier 4 examples in fantasy. He's nearly unkillable thanks to phylactery-like resurrection mechanics, layers of magical defenses, and his undead nature. Ainz commands an entire citadel of loyal guardians and monstrous armies, capable of conquering nations, even without him casting a single spell, and Zareth Dragnil might be the most tragic worldbreaker of them all. Cursed by Ank'Saram, he literally kills anything around him when he loses emotional control, making his existence a walking massacre. He's immortal, unable to die by any normal means, and spends centuries creating demons, halting time, and manipulating life force magic in a desperate attempt to undo his own cursed existence. His actions ripple across generations, shaping guilds, empires, and conflicts that span continents. Zareth doesn't wage war. He accidentally causes wars simply by existing. What ties Tier 4 together is the fusion of immortality and world-shaping power. Tier 4 sorcerers influence nations. Their magic doesn't just win battles, it reorganizes civilizations, forces entire worlds into new political structures, and alters the trajectory of history itself. These are beings you don't duel and you don't outsmart. Civilizations are built either to worship them or to find a way to finally destroy them. Moving into Tier 5 is a different kind of smoke. One where, if you don't tread lightly and be on your P's and Q's, you're getting packed up. These are some of the strongest wizards in their verse, and for damn good reason. Dumbledore's duel with Voldemort at the Ministry isn't just a fight, it's a spectacle. He's turning water into prison walls and throwing fire tornadoes while simultaneously protecting everyone watching. The guy dismantled Grindelwald's entire regime, hunted Horcruxes across the globe, and built Hogwarts into a fortress that held off armies. Grindelwald himself was running half of Europe through a combination of fear, charisma, and that Protego Diabolica spell that just vaporizes anyone who walks into it. When these two finally fought, witnesses described it like reality was bending around them. Voldemort, at his peak, is the clearest example of this shift. With all his Horcruxes intact, he isn't someone you defeat in a duel, he's someone you survive. You can blow up his body, curse him, burn him, banish him, it doesn't matter. His soul is scattered across cursed objects, protected by layers of traps meant to break the mind or kill the flesh of anyone who even attempts to approach them. Voldemort plunges the wizarding world into 2 wars, topples the Ministry, rewrites magical politics, and forces an entire generation to reorganize their lives around either joining him or fighting him. He's not a combat threat, he's a historical inevitability. That's the baseline for Tier 5. Merlin from the BBC show operates completely differently but hits the same scale. By the end, he's wordlessly throwing telekinesis around, commanding dragons that can level armies, and literally messing with fate to keep Arthur alive and Camelot standing. He doesn't advertise his power because he's trying to stay hidden, but he's functionally Albion's secret weapon. Saruman, before his fall, was equally terrifying and quite literally on demon time. He industrialized Isengard, bred an army of Uruk-hai through sorcery, and his voice could break people's minds and bend them to his will. Then, you've got Jafar as a genie, who just rewrites the rules. He's reshaping palaces, transforming landscapes, and turning into a giant cobra because he feels like it. The only thing stopping him from complete domination is genie law, but even with those restrictions, he's operating at a level where he could topple kingdoms in minutes. People overlook Jafar, I feel, because of just the general vibe of the Disney classic, but if you really pay attention to what he was able to do, he was going crazy. Solomon from Magi takes it even further by rewriting the actual system that magic runs on. He's not just casting big spells, he's changing how Rook works, which is the foundation of life and magic itself. Roslin's physically falling apart, but his spells can debilitate entire armies, and in the full lore, he's literally challenging gods. What makes Tier 5 stand out from everything below is scope. These wizards aren't just winning battles, they're deciding who rules, where borders are drawn, and sometimes what the laws of magic even are. In Tier 5, wizards shape history. Tier 6 is where the entire idea of combat stops making sense, because these wizards aren't fighting opponents. They're rewriting the rules the universe uses to decide what winning even is. Everything below this tier still operates inside a system. Tier 6 sorcerers start overriding the system itself. Nabu is the clearest example, not because he throws big spells or wipes out armies, but because he exists as a lawgiver in the DC universe. As a Lord of Order, he doesn't use magic so much as he enforces it. When he merges with a host to become Dr. Fate, he grants access to spells that bend time, fold dimensions, and reshape matter as casually as a Tier 3 wizard casts a shield. He battles Chaos Lords and multiversal demons, beings whose defeat or survival determines whether whole timelines are allowed to continue existing. Nabu doesn't push the boundaries of magic, he defines them. Gojo, Satoru, and Julius Novachrono exist in this same impossible category, where fundamental forces warp to their presence. Gojo's infinity is one of the purest forms of spatial manipulation in modern fiction, a passive, always-on effect that stops anything from ever reaching him. Knives, fists, bullets, curses, beams, they all slow, stall, and fail before they touch his skin. And when he uses domain expansion, reality becomes a sensory black hole where opponents are overwhelmed with infinite information until their minds break. Julius does the same thing to time. He rewinds injuries, accelerates his body, freezes incoming attacks, and even stores future time to spend later. He isn't predicting opponents, he's living in multiple futures at once, choosing the one where he wins. In their worlds, political structures bend around them because everyone understands they're not just powerful, they're unfair. Acnologia represents the destructive side of this tier, a being so saturated in magic and dragon power that the normal laws of sorcery collapse around him. His magic-eating ability nullifies anything thrown his way, and his arc of embodiment lets his thoughts materialize instantly into attacks or defenses. Even in human form, he tears dimensions apart, breaks the ravines of time, and fights across temporal rifts like they're open fields. He isn't just strong, he's incompatible with the world he's standing in. Conventional magic does not function on him because he's already transcended it. What unifies Tier 6 is simple. These wizards aren't playing the same game as everyone else. While Tier 3 dominates battlefields and Tier 4 crushes nations, Tier 6 violates the fundamental architecture of their universes. Space becomes infinite. Time stops, rewinds, or branches. Dimensions crack open. Magic itself gets eaten, nullified, or rewritten. You can't overwhelm them with force because force is a rule, and they're the ones editing the rulebook. This is the tier where physics starts taking orders instead of giving them, and once you reach this level, fighting becomes a meaningless word. Tier 7 is where the whole idea of wizard power basically falls apart. Up until now, every tier has been about who can cast what, who can break what, and who can overpower who. But once you hit Tier 7, the conversation shifts from magic users to reality itself. And honestly, the funniest part is that Doctor Strange is the only actual wizard here, and even he's barely hanging onto the edge of this tier. Strange is crazy powerful, no doubt. The guy looked through 14 million futures like he was fast scrolling on TikTok. He held the multiverse together long enough for Spider-Man's spell to settle, and he literally beat Dormammu by throwing him into an infinite time loop until Dormammu got annoyed. But even with all that, Strange is still a dude casting spells with hand motions and relics. He's insanely strong, but he's still playing the game. everyone else in this tier, they are the game. Dormammu doesn't cast spells, he is a dimension. The dark dimension literally absorbs universes on autopilot. Inside his realm, he kills Strange 1,000 times, like he's clicking retry on a video game. The Spectre, he's not even a wizard, he's divine punishment wearing a trench coat. He walks across realities and judges souls the way a manager checks emails. Truth from Full Metal Alchemist is even wilder. It's not a person, it's the universe talking back. You don't cast magic at Truth. Truth decides what parts of yourself you're allowed to keep. And then you've got Eternity, who shows up in the MCU as the literal embodiment of an entire universe. One wish from him can flip the rules of existence. Zeno from Dragon Ball Super, this childlike cosmic being erases universes because he doesn't like the vibe. No explosions, no spells, just gone. The Anti-Spiral King turns entire galaxies into math problems and uses probability itself as a weapon. And then you have beings like the One Above All or the Beyonder, who sit outside the multiverse looking at universes like they're items on a menu. They don't visit realities, they design them. That's the real difference with Tier 7. Tier 6 breaks the rules. Tier 7 writes the rulebook. Strange can warp time, bend space, and peek into the multiverse. But Dormammu devours multiverses. The Spectre doesn't use justice magic. He is divine justice. Truth is the law. These entities don't just shape worlds, they decide which worlds are allowed to exist in the first place. Tier 7 isn't about magic anymore. It's about beings operating so high above every other tier that calling them wizards almost feels like an inside joke. This is the final tier, the place where existence itself answers to them.